Всім добрий вечір.
On behalf of the brave, on behalf of every father and every mother who waits for freedom, on behalf of our warriors, and paves the way for a new history.
So I would just implore our audience once more, please do like the stream, subscribe to Tochnyi. Also, if you could just spread the word that the stream's happening, just because our colleague Alex S. Has a very excellent interview that he's worked quite hard on. And we'd really appreciate it if everyone could, get as much exposure to this thing as possible. So with that being said, I know I got asked you guys to do that all the time, but I really mean it this time. Please do it. I'll turn it over to Mr. Alex S. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Joseph. So, as you might remember, I do have quite a big project about covering the situation in Mariupol and occupied territories, but especially cover Mariupol. And I had the fortune to interview Petro Andriushchenko, who is a former advisor to the mayor of Mariupol and one of the leading voices for the occupied territories. And most recently, he became the head of the Center of the Study for Occupation. And this is a center that analyzes what is happening in the occupied territories to prepare for the deoccupation. So they are looking to the future with focus about Ukrainian people who are living under the occupation. They're trying to track any aspect of the life of the people under occupation, tracking what the occupiers are doing, any kind of war crimes or anything, demolitions, rebuildings, which is something that I'm also trying to track. And during the interview, which is about 50 minutes long, that we had earlier this week, we discussed about several topics. The first one was about the reverse filtration system that people who escaped from occupied territories have to go through if they want to try to reclaim their properties, especially in Mariupol, because this is not really happening in other cities because they're basically destroyed, while in Mariupol there is still something to reclaim. But of course, Russians are trying to steal everything they can from the rightful owners. So a lot of people from Ukraine or European Union have to go back to Mariupol to show that they are the rightful owner of apartments and houses. Otherwise, the Russians will steal and resell to Russians to go on with their people displacement project. And after that, we discussed about the population, the demographics in the occupied city. And Petro told me that he estimates that about 80 to 100,000 people who live in Mariupol today are original Ukrainian people. And you have to remember, Mariupol used to have about 500,000 inhabitants before the invasion. And most of the people, so Ukrainian people who remain in the city, are retired old people. They only have about 15,000 children and a very small amount of adults in a working age. And on the other side, they have about between 80 and 100,000 Russian who moved in the city. And we're not talking about servicemen. So military people who are in the city, it's about 15,000. So in total, we talk about less than 200,000 people. So below the half of the people who used to live in the city before the invasion. even if the Russian, I have seen some numbers in the local channels, they estimate that they've got more than 320,000 people who moved back to the city. So they are claiming that 320,000 Ukrainians went back to Mariupol after the invasion, and it really makes no sense. I mean, we know that unfortunately a lot of people died and a lot of people never got back to Mariupol. So they are doing propaganda all the way. And after that, we discussed about the housing problem in Mariupol is a big, big issue. I asked Petro about most recent estimates and numbers from occupiers because they are pushing a lot about how much they are rebuilding the city. But in fact, they rebuilt less than 10% of what they destroyed. And we're just talking about apartments. We're not talking about private housing. There is no track about the private houses that have been demolished. I'm making this map of Mariupol, and it's impossible to track the destruction of the private sectors of the city. There is nothing left, more or less. Just a few houses here and there, but most of them are gone. And what he told me is that now they are rebuilding a lot of apartments, and I see that in the pictures and videos that I'm tracking. During the last year, Russians have really started to build at a high speed. But the issue here is that they're not building new blocks and apartments for the people who lost their houses, but only to sell to Russian who are moving to Mariupol. And in fact, you know that the interest rate in Russia, the basic interest rate in Russia is 21%, if I'm not mistaken. But if you want to get a mortgage to buy an apartment in Mariupol, it will be only 2% for you. So it's really convenient for a lot of people to invest their money and buy something in Mariupol. After that, we discussed a little bit about the videos that have appeared on YouTube and YouTube channel of people who are Mariupol residents who were complaining because after 3 years under the occupation, they lost their house during the siege of Mariupol in spring 22, and are still homeless today. And Petro estimates that it's about 20,000 people who are homeless today in Mariupol. They're still there, and he really, during the interview, he says he's not able to explain why they are remaining there. But yeah, now they've been complaining through videos. We counted about 70 videos where they're making appeals even to Putin himself, which it makes me laugh, to be honest, to get help because nobody is helping them. And according to Petro, this is also a political move between Morkun, who is the leader of the city under occupation, and Pushlin, who is the leader of the Donetsk People Republic. So it's internal fights at a political level between pro-Russian and Russia. So it's quite a complex topic. After that, we discussed about the economy of the city, what people are living off, and it's really hard to explain, to be honest. Most of the money that are floating through the city are from Russia for the reconstruction of the city, or servicemen who are staying in the city. Again, we're talking about 15,000 people who are military men in Mariupol. And yeah, Petro sees Mariupol for Russia not as a city for the people, but a logistics center for the military operation and, of course, for as a link between Russia and Crimea. And a very important topic that we discussed about at the end of the interview was the militarization of the youth. And this is something really disturbing. There are hundreds of videos. And now that we are getting close to the 9th of May, they're becoming more and more about children from an age of 3 years old and up to 18 who are getting indoctrinated at schools from military servicemen, using guns, using Kalashnikov, handling mines. That's really disturbing. And it's disturbing by itself because they are children with weapons. And as Petro says during the interview, it's disturbing because these are children today. But in the future, there will be warriors that Russia wants to use not only against Ukraine, but against Europe. So we should really think about that and support Ukraine. Petro, Andriushchenko, welcome back. Welcome back to Tochnyi. Thank you very much for joining us again today after last year's interview. So for those in our publicum who might not know you, Petro Andriushchenko is a former advisor to the mayor of Mariupol. He is one of the leading voices of Mariupol during the occupation, and more recently, he became the head of the Center for the Study of Occupation. Today, we are going to cover multiple topics, but I would like to start with your new role. So could you kindly explain what the Center for the Study of Occupation is and what its goals are?
Yeah, the main goal of our center is, of course, it's studied the occupation. I mean, we try to make a lot of research about our occupied territory, not about like just territory, but about people, about new society, about Russian authority for now, and some trends. We will try analyze everything. So the main idea, we have to know, we must know what happened in occupied territory, because we sure that the occupation will be, it doesn't matter what time and when we occupied our territory, but we have to know what happened there and what our people think, all kind of this. It's one of the part. I think I can say that we measured the shadow because we tried to find everything and understand everything. We like cut our action to big for two big parts. One part, it's of course it's about army, about war situation, and about occupied units, all kind of the stuff. And one part that's about our society. First of all, it's about Ukrainian society in occupation. So all the strengths, all the, what our people think, what they want, what they are doing now, and what we can predict it about future, and how we can help, and why, how we can prepare to the occupation, of course, because it's a lot of thing, a hard discussion and hard thing wait us in the future, of course. So, and finally, we try to understand everything, and for that we organized our center.
Thank you. So before we start discussing about Mariupol, I would like to discuss a little bit about the situation in the occupied territories. And reading your Telegram channel, I was struck by the fact that several thousand of Ukrainians had to return to the occupied territories in the past months, and mainly for economic reasons. Some of them could not afford the cost of living in Western Ukraine, while others return in hopes to reclaim their properties and perhaps with the intention of living again later. And I know this is a topic which is one of your top priorities. So could you please elaborate on the reasons behind the difficult decision of people getting back, what they face when they are under the occupation again? And could you please describe the reverse filtration process that they have to go through to get back in the occupied territories?
Yeah, sure, it's a hard decision for everyone to back to occupation. The economic reason is the first reason in the story, but we have some other reasons and some other problems with that, but it's not about that. Yeah, so it's about filtration. Yeah, every Ukrainian citizen that who haven't Russian citizen for now, who haven't Russian passport, they must to enter to the Russia and then through the Russia to occupied territory, finally to their home of our people. They have came through the Sheremetyevo, airport Sheremetyevo, and airport Sheremetyevo. We have one of the biggest and strongest filtration point of Russian security services, and it's like a torture because it's a strange process. So finally they try to check everything, every gadget, every reason. They lots of hours, long hours of conversation with our people, which each other for why they want to back home and what they doing before and everything. So every their life, and finally someone of Secret Service staff decide that you can enter to and back home finally or not, or they deported our people. The numbers of people who came through the filtration or numbers of people who cancelled to enter to Russia, it absolutely different story. So I mean proportion. Yeah, sometimes Russian decide to permit and for everything for everyone, and sometimes nobody can enter the occupied territory. So it's very hard process. It took some days. And all these days, people are staying in Sheremetyevo without food, just the water, and without any, I don't know, any patient from the Russian. So it's really it's like a torture. But after that, if our people have or take a Russian passport, they can enter the occupied territory through any airports, through any points from any countries. So it works like this story, and we don't know. Sometimes they stop to permit for our people to enter, sometimes not. Now we in a point when they promoted as promoted in Ukrainian society to back home to Zaporizhia region, first of all in Kherson region, because they haven't Russian who want to remove from Russia to occupied territory, and they have to lots of worker in their territories. So they decided to start again the promotion campaign inside the Ukrainian society in telegrams and something like that. And for now, it's some easier for people from Zaporizhia region or Kherson region to back home. So let's see. We don't know what we can see in the future, in the nearest future. For now, the situation is the same.
I understand. Thank you. And recently, you gave an interview to an Italian media outlet where you mentioned that also hundreds of Ukrainians are still leaving the occupied territories each month. And are these people who are leaving the occupied territories for the first time after 3 years of occupation, having finally realize that they have no future under Russian occupation, or are people who went back to the occupied territories temporarily to settle their properties and then go back to freedom again?
Yeah, people, it's the most number of people who back home, they not back home for forever. So they try to back home and re-register their property in Russia law, during Russia law, and then back to the shelter in evacuation. So it might be EU countries or Ukraine, it doesn't matter. So, but yeah, we have this trip for saving your property. It doesn't work in reality because for now the Russians start a new process, start a new action at about like second inventarization, and they checked everyone who stay in Mariupol or who entered, who back to evacuation, and like they start a new process to find and for ownless property in Mariupol. I mean, so how they mean? So it's a hard process, but yeah, lots of people. I mean, if we talk about numbers, it might be some thousands of people back to Mariupol and then back to evacuation after they can register all this properties. But yeah, but everybody from that have to they had a Russian passport for now, so they like have a second citizen for Russian, because it's one chance to have a registering to register your property in Russian data services. I mean, so it's a hard story for everyone. It's like from one side, yeah, we have to think it about our people, about property, because but finally, it's as for me, like it's my personal opinion, but it's the stupidest thing sometimes, because you can't use your property if you stay in evacuation, you know. I mean, finally, from the one hand. From the other hand, in the other hand, like it's a big issue about security, European security, Ukrainian security. It's one of the easiest way that showed us like how easy to Russian agent have to come to European Union countries, actually, first of all, or in Ukraine. And if in Ukraine we have like some strong control from our secret services and our police and all kind of these services, I mean. So what with the European Union countries is a big question. So it's so easy. It's lots of people. It's hundred and thousand people month by month. So who knows? We think it's very dangerous for Europe because everybody think about future war against the Russia. So
Yeah, no, you make a good point. I've been looking a lot to Instagram accounts, and I see really a lot of people who one day are in occupied territories, and then suddenly they are in Europe, and I wonder who these people are. So that's a very good point that you made. So now I would like to move the focus on Mariupol. And a couple of months ago, in your Telegram channel, you published a detailed analysis of the city's demographics, economy, and housing, and based on both the occupiers' data and your team's research. So, could you please share some of your findings with our listeners, starting with your updated estimate of the current population in Mariupol? How many are the original inhabitants, and how many come from Russian Federation?
yeah, sure. So if we talked about our city, about Mariupol, about Ukrainian citizens who stayed in under the occupation, so it's very interesting thing about demographic. Why? Because the most part of the people, it's retired people. So finally, we count that in Mariupol stay It depends of the season, of course, but now it's spring near the summer, so we can say that Mariupol near the 80,000 people, near the 100,000 people. So in this gaps, I mean, and lots of them near the 60,000 people. It's retired people, so it's very old city, you know, in this reason. So we have some numbers of children, Ukrainian children now in occupied Mariupol, and near the 15,000, from 15 to 17. Near then, it depends of the age, so it's hard to count, of course, but we know it from our insiders in occupied authorities. And all the other people, it's adults, so no, not so many. Yes, so the maximum number of people in Mariupol now, Ukrainian people in the summer, it's 100,000 people. In autumn, I'm sure that we can see the much less people than in Mariupol, because they try to find something again. Because of sea, lots of people back home in the summer season. So, but the sadness story is about Russian citizen in Mariupol. The Russian citizen in Mariupol, for now, it's near the same numbers. So, without any servicemen in Mariupol, near the 80,000 people. So it's a lots of Russian removed to Mariupol, because merging program worked in Mariupol, and like Russian promoted this process, like I mean removing, and actually we have the special politic of Russian authority, of Russian government, and they want to change population in Mariupol. They want to change Ukrainian population to Russian population. And the sadness story, it's very successful action for Russian, what can I say, after this 3 year of occupation, yeah, they know what they do, and they absolutely clearly understand how they can do it, how they can absolutely changing population in Mariupol. Finally, we predict that if the occupation of Mariupol staying near the, I don't know, 3 years, finally we have near the 20% it will be Ukrainian citizen, like, and near the 70-80% it might be Russian citizen. I mean, original Russian, not like who take a Russian passport in Mariupol before had a Ukrainian citizens. So it's very hard story. Yeah, it's finally it's like the way from the history we can see it in Ukrainian history in the past century, when the Soviet Union made the same things. But Soviet Union, I have to say that less successful in the story than Russians for now.
Yes, as you said, the process of moving people from Russian Federation is working, and
Yeah.
they are also using an important tool, which is the housing crisis. We see that there are not enough houses. A lot of people in Mariupol who lost their house, they're still homeless, and we also see an increasing number, sorry, of new apartment buildings that are replacing the demolished ones. But however, these new blocks are being sold to Russians, and they are not accessible to the people who lost their homes. Could you please explain the process of giving nothing to Ukrainians, but selling these new buildings, new apartments to Russian? And can you also please, you had some numbers about how many apartments they plan to build, and compare that with the number of apartments that disappeared.
I think you know better better than me how many apartments was disappeared. I know it, but yeah, near the half of like 50, 100 apartments, 50 hundreds buildings they demolished after the occupation. So, and for us, it's easier to count by the apartments because we have absolutely different buildings with different numbers of floor and some kind of that. So we can say that for now they demolished and disappeared near the 35,000 apartments in Mariupol, and near the same count of apartments, it's look like ruin. So it doesn't disappear for now, but in reality, it's impossible to live in. So it's absolutely ruined. So finally, we have near the 70,000 of apartments in reality disappeared in Mariupol for now. And what about the new apartments? I think we can say it about two parts again. At about two parts of the apartments, two parts of the buildings. First of all, the apartments for Mariupol people for compensation on the story, and we know they finished this process for now. Absolutely, it's like final point from the 1st January of this year. So and we can say they built near the 5,000 of apartments. So it's like less than 10% of all apartments they were demolished and destroyed in Mariupol now. So and any new apartments, especially for Mariupol, Russian don't build now, and they finalize this process for everyone. And in the same time, they're building a lot of apartments for Russians. So imagine system. They for now in the morning and check. There's for our analysis, 1 hour analysis, and I can say they announced 26 big apartments, big buildings with apartments for Russian people, and it's not the final point because we know that they have special papers in Donetsk for 20 new buildings too. So finally, they want to build during this year near the 46 new buildings for Russians. It's a big buildings, like it's not like skyscrapers, but we're very close for that. So every new buildings has more than 10 floor. So it's like a big buildings, like so. But nobody. It's not for Ukrainian people for now. Near for about our information, and near the 22,000 people who stay in Mariupol right now, they haven't any property, they haven't any apartment, so they really homeless for now, and they try to fight with Russian authority, but it's absolutely unsuccessful story. I'm shocked, and we're absolutely surprised why they stay in Mariupol without home. It's strange, really. It sounds strange, it looks strange, but it's true.
Yes, and about that, since the end of 2024, many videos have appeared online showing these people who, after 3 years, still have no home, and they are demanding a solution. They make appeals to Putin himself. And do you see any shift in the mindset of those people who were waiting for Russia?
Yeah, some, but I don't think it's like a big shifting actually, because it's waiting of Russia from our view. I mean, like our in widest sense, like for Ukrainian news, it's very close to some, I don't know, some mental illness, because it's a strange. Really, we haven't any real understanding how it's possible. Russian bomb like in your under your head in your home, and you like think it's okay. It's a strange, really. It's strange. I saw it a lot in Mariupol in previous year before the start in the Russian invasion, but after the starting of war, when they shelling a big part of Mariupol, like our Schidny area, it's one of the biggest tragedy of Mariupol before the Russian invasion, I mean, in February 2022. So it's a strange. It's absolutely. We haven't any real point for understanding that. It's like really, it's like mental illness. So we absolutely we can see there any changes of pro-Russian Ukrainian citizen mind in the story. Other people who under politic, yeah, they said we are under politic, so we were like we for peace, not for Russia, not for Ukraine. This part of society, yeah, they shift to pro-Ukrainian part because they see every day what is the real Russian world, yeah, Ruski Mir, what is that? So finally, yeah, they have a big hope in start of occupation, and in reality, Russian made lots of things that for this fairy tale of Russian world. But for now, after that, they see that nobody, they don't need for Russians. Yeah, Russia need a Mariupol, like logistic point, like port, like airport, like I don't know, army base, but not for Ukrainian civilian people inside in reality. And they understand and they think like more the pro-Ukrainian mind they have now, pro-Ukrainian opinion.
Yeah, and when you describe Mariupol, I mean, if you see other occupied territories, they look even worse. And somehow they are working to give a good picture of Mariupol because it's important for their propaganda. But yeah, the reality is extremely bad. And going back to those videos for a second, you said that they might be a part of a political plan by Oleg Morgun, who is the head of the occupiers' city administration. And apparently those videos, they stopped and then started again and then stopped again. And you said that perhaps FSB stopped them. What is happening? What is the political goal of Morgun? And can you explain? I know it's very complex, but it's also very interesting.
Yeah, I try to explain it because, yeah, first of all, we have to understand that any chief of occupied authority like Marhun or someone else, it's nobody for Russians because it's like it's a puppet, yeah. So they can make any decision about Mariupol. Formally, he's a chief of Mariupol, he mayor of Mariupol, but in reality not. They have a special person from Russia, absolutely unpublic person, who decide everything about Mariupol. So we were talking about this strange process with Russian inside politic and strange process without our demolished houses and people who had on this, how they use it. So it's very very interesting story, and it's not stop. I can say yesterday. I start from yesterday. Yeah. First of all, and what can I say? Yesterday, someone from a Russian occupied authority or from Russian FSB sent for us, in our center, for our people, big base, the big database of people who try to fight for their houses in Mariupol. I mean, someone hacked their gadgets, phones, like texting, email, all kind of the stuff, and send it for us because it's very interesting story. It's like a part of insider war without people, FSB, and without Margun. So what the Margun want was one of their volunteer from Russia, some Madame Sani. They used our people for attack the Russian authority. I mean the Kremlin, first of all, and Putin administration. Sorry. Russian authority for because they want to be a parliamenter, working parliament, be like senator in Russian parliament. So they use our people for that with the GRU, but it's an absolutely unsuccessful story finally. So finally FSB win this war and everybody shut up in Mariupol. Margun, all our people were prepared if they make the one more video, they will be arrested. So for now, this war like stopped. I mean, but what were the main idea? The main idea was lots of our people. Margun organized for our people, not like for his own, of course, but from his people in Mariupol. They organized special video from these people, homeless people, first of all, and they like talk to Putin and want to help from them and about their apartments. They said a lot like Pushilin, liar and something like that. So finally, someone in Putin administration, it was Kirienko, it's deputy of chief of Putin administration in the Kremlin. They talked to Putin and said like, oh, you can see the Pushilin didn't do nothing. He's a thief, like just he stolen our budget money, all kind of this stuff. And yeah, it was like the worst time for Pushilin in the start of this year. But finally, for now, the FSB, I think they win the story because the FSB is behind the back of Pushilin, first of all. So strange story, but finally there's a sadness in the story because of our people. Our people stay homeless. Our people haven't any help. And for now, they like predicted they can be arrested from FSB in any time for this video they made in January and in February.
Yeah, and I understood that the repression is still very hard, not only for those people who recorded the videos, but in general. And in your analysis about Mariupol, you describe the local economy as a bazaar. And when I look at Instagram, I think that the city seems to be filled with beauty salons and restaurants with occasional military personnel passing by. But of course, this one is a very distorted view. What are the people really living on? Both the original Mariupol people, you said most of them are old, retired people, and also the occupiers. What's the economics of the city?
They haven't any economics, so absolutely no economics in the city. So in the city, the city live just from the Russian budget. They dotated Mariupol budget, and it's like final point. If we talk about like business, it's a short business. Yeah, it's some shops, like some stores, some cafes, some restaurants, but not a lot. And it's not like supermarket. Yeah, it's civilization. It's like really small stores, like in the small town or small village, something like that. And it isn't enough for the people in Mariupol, but they haven't money for biggest business because every business controlled by Russian authority, it's very hard to understand. It's a big corruption inside. So, yeah, lots of these cafe and restaurants were opened in the first year of occupation. Strange, but in reality, because on the first year, Mariupol had lots of money. It's like money from the air. It was, like, I don't know, a golden age in the USA and something like that. But finally, it stopped in 2023, and for now, it's absolutely other story. Our people haven't any job. We haven't any industrial factory or something like that. Any big business and any, I don't know, nothing. It's just nothing. Mariupol works just support. And I mean, that's it. Actually, all these cafes, cafe for now, a restaurant, they really work for Russian servicemen. In Mariupol, for now, near the 15,000 of Russian servicemen, so they have money, and they spend their money in this restaurants. I mean, so it's not for Ukrainian, of course.
That's similar to my impression, and I see a lot of influencers, or I don't know, perhaps they are the wives or girlfriends of the servicemen. But apart from that, I do not really see much of activity or economics in the city.
It's a dead city. No, for now, in reality, it's a dead city. Absolutely. So I'm not sure that they can like rebuild it, or for now, I don't know. I'm not sure. So this city have like just one point for Russia. No, 2 point. It's like war logistic and logistic to Crimea. So nothing, anything else. So it's not sounds like city for life. Yeah, it's like sounds for city for I don't know, like for the short stop between Russia territory and occupied Crimea.
Yeah, I see sometimes tourists who are there, tourists from Russia, who are there for perhaps one day and then they go away. I don't even know if they're staying in the city for one night, to be honest. There is another topic that I find really disturbing, and is the indoctrination and militarization of children and youth. And I constantly see pictures and videos of the children of all ages, from 3 years old and up over, being exposed not just to Russian propaganda, but to military rhetoric, imagery, systematic indoctrination, and even paramilitary trainings. And I believe that many people in the West don't fully grasp what this could mean in the future, not so far away. It's really scary. So could you please talk about this?
Yeah, I think, for our mind, first of all, it's working. First of all, we have to understand it's really working, because from the first day of occupation, not from first day, yeah, but from the first months of occupation, they started this program. They started to work just with our children, because they understood that very clear story. So it's absolutely they don't work with adults, because for every adults in Mariupol or other occupied territory, it's like the people who have a potential dangerous people for Russian regime. It doesn't matter. They have a pro-Russian or pro-Ukrainian views, minds. They think it's dangerous. It's why they try to change our citizen for Russian citizen. But with the children in absolutely other situations, they clearly understand that they can restudy or relearn our people and remake from Ukrainian children to the Russian citizen, and not just like Russian citizens, Russian soldiers, first of all. And they've done, they're doing the same thing in occupied territory in Russia, and they are future soldiers. In reality, it's future soldiers who will fight with European Union, first of all, after 5 years, I don't know, 6 years, might be a little bit more, might be a little bit less, but they were prepared. They built like absolutely a special bubble, for our children. They have a special program for education. It's not like education, but it's more like military patriotic education, they think. The chief of that, it's Maria Lvova Belova. It's Russian children ombudsman. It's very strange how it sounds, yeah, but it's reality. And Kirienko, the deputy of chief administration of president of Russia. So, and they work with our people, and yes, they know what they do, and it might be working. What can I say? I learned in Soviet Union school. In the high school, we had near the same classes of war education. It was very funny, but it's not like that. It's very light version of reality of modern time. And I said it works in the past, but it was like final years of Soviet Union. So for now, it might be working better, and they understand every mistake of Soviet Union regime in education and with work with the children, and they correct it. So they have we have a really sad story. So it might be thousands future warriors now in the Russian school and in the school in occupied territory. They're very successful in this story. It's very sad to say that, but it's reality. If we, I don't know what we can do, but we have to do something. I mean, not like just Ukrainian or not just like Ukraine. With our alias, we have to do something. We have worked with, I don't know, we have to work with social media. We have make lots of content. We have make a gaming, all kind of that our children use, because the children in occupied territory in Russia and the same children like in every world, they use a gadget, they use they like games, plays, comics, I don't know, all kind of this stuff, and we have to do something with that. In the widest meaning, I mean, not just like we for our people, for our children in occupation, because here, absolutely sure, and I think everybody have to be absolutely sure that after 5 years, Russia had 100,000 of new warriors or new soldiers, and what the difference from now? For now, they have to pay for their soldiers lots of money, yeah, because it's one of motivation to go into the war. In the future, not. All these people, all these children, when they stay adult, they have other motivation. They think they are like Russian patriot against all the world, because all the world is the world of the enemies for the Russian. It's awful. It's awful as for me, and it's scary. It have to scare it everyone in civilian war for now. I mean, first of all, in European Union countries and countries through the border of Russia and Baltic countries, Scandinavian countries, Poland, all kind of these countries. And so I know the Scandinavian, the first of all Baltic countries, they understand it because they were all like part of Soviet Union in the past. They were occupied of Soviet Union. They remember the time, like in the Ukrainian people, they remember the time. So, but I'm sure that it's very strange to understand. I know, like in Norway, yeah, for now, or in the or other country, as you want, in France, I don't know, Belgium, the Netherlands, any countries. It's very strange to believe for now that it can be possible in the future. But what can I say? When in 2021, every Ukrainian, everybody things the same. It was strange. It's impossible that Russian made an invasion in Ukraine. They destroyed our peaceful cities, all kind of the stuff. So nobody believe, nobody, and Europe now in the same situation. Nobody believe, but they have to. And you have to, because it can be. It's reality. Russian don't think like they haven't and normal thinking, like ordinary people, like humanitarian people. No, they have absolutely other kind of thinking. It's absolutely I don't know, it's not like an animal, because animal the best than Russian, you know.
Okay, so I have a final question for you. Last year, we concluded our interview and I asked you your thoughts about the future, and I would like to do the same again. Now, the current situation is highly unpredictable due to the US administration shift to support the Russian narrative. So, given such uncertainty, how do you see the future of occupied territories, and what is the general sentiment among the people who are living under the occupation?
Yeah, it's for now it's very hard to predict something because of Trump, of course, in reality. But I try. We Ukraine for now in the point. If we stay strong through the 2025, in 2026 we can think about the occupation of our territory. In reality, because Russia have a big problem with everything, with armor, with vehicle, with people. First of all, it's really strange, but they absolutely in that point. It's not our lucky for now with Trump administration, because of I think everybody understands what I mean. But for now, I think if we haven't peace deal this year, I don't believe in peace deal this year, of course. But if we haven't peace deal in 2026, we can talk about the occupation of our territory. If we must to peace deal, as for me, our territory stayed occupied some years before we can deoccupy it in different ways. I'm not sure about way how we deoccupate it. Might be it like I know about Berlin Wall. Could be like a war story, like in Armenia, Azerbaijan for now, in Nagorno-Karabakh. I mean, like in the army way. So I don't know for now, but yeah, it's like a big question for now, big issue. If so if we haven't a peace deal, I sure that 2026 it's might be start the year of our victory, and we can talk about the occupation and in different ways, not just diplomatic. I mean, it might be absolutely boots on the ground in occupied territory, Ukrainian boots, first of all. So who knows? Because lots of process around, not just the USA administration, lots of things in Europe. I think it's very good things that Europe finally understand that they for their own. So nobody helps Europe in any war, any NATO or something like that. So Europe for Europe might be, and it's our chance, Ukrainian chance to deoccupy it with the European support. Why not? Who said no? So
I totally agree with you. I believe that now Europe really has to step up together with Ukraine and Ukraine together with Europe. That's for the good of the whole continent. So thank you very much for having been with us today. And I hope to talk with you soon again. And Slava Ukraini.
Ramsla,
Thank you.
thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the interview with Petro.
Yeah, it was super interesting, Alex. Thank you so much.
In my own opinion, it's so interesting but the final 2 minutes are super inspiring because, especially for those of us who are living in Europe, they tell everything. It's like, it's the future of Europe, and we have been saying the same for 3 years now. Ukraine and Europe. And Erlend, you know better than me.
Yeah, this guy needs more eyes on, his work and his knowledge. So thank you so much for, bringing that on here. And also I know that you're in some way collaborating with him. So
Yes,
thank
I
you
do.
for the work you're doing. There were some questions about where people can get news from
Yes.
Mariupol.
So I know that you have already put a few channels in the video description, and I'm going to explain those. So the first one is Petro's own Telegram channel, which is of course in Ukrainian, but it's very easy to translate, and I've been following for a couple of years now. That's my main source. It's not always easy to understand if you are not really into the local news and if you do not speak Ukrainian or Russian, which I do not, but still I'm able to make a decent work about the occupied territories. So it's possible. So first link is Petro's own channel. The second one in the video description is the channel for Mariupol resistance, which is very close to Petro. And okay, most of the time they are showing people who are pro-Russian in the city, but they also share some interesting information which is not just relevant for people very close to Mariupol, but about the occupied territories or local news, stuff like that. So it's a very good channel. Then the third link that you put in the description is the 0629 is the Telegram channel. They also have a website, is the local news site for Mariupol. It's pro Ukraine. It's a very good one for me because they cover a lot of news from the city, and they also have lots of YouTube videos. Of course, they are in Ukrainian, so it requires some work to translate them, but I really appreciate the work they are doing. And then there is the main local Telegram channel, which is Mariupol now. They became really huge during the siege of the city. I don't remember how many subscribers they have, but it's around 300,000. And my own comment about that channel is that they're very good to collect information from multiple sources. Unfortunately, they are infiltrated by a lot of pro-Russian people, perhaps FSB, I guess. So if you read the channel, do not look at the reactions, because you will see that if you remember the videos we made last year when I was speaking and showing my map, and I was saying that Russians, they're not really rebuilding the city, but they're just repainting the city. And these trolls in that local channel, they really like to put likes on anything that is repainted, not really rebuilt, but repainted. So it's, yeah, the Russian propaganda everywhere. But yeah, again, it's a good source because they gather. Oh, thank you for putting my map on screen. So if and I can explain the map for 2 seconds. So Mariupol now is a good channel, but you have to filter a little bit, especially the reactions. So I will spend 2 minutes on the map. And Erden, are you on control of the screen so I can?
Yes.
Okay. So okay. First of all, the map. I started that in January 24, and it's in Italian because, as you hear, I'm from Italy, and it was a reaction against Italian propagandists for Russia, and they wanted to have an event in Italy to tell everybody that Mariupol was rebuilt, which I knew was not true. So I started with this project where I'm mapping pictures and videos of the city, mainly pictures. So there are several layers. Now you are going to 2022, I think. Okay, so that one, you are now showing the new buildings. So those, the purple icons with the Russian bear foot stamp, are the buildings that Russian have built after the occupation. So those where you are now is the Nevsky complex, which is the first complex they built. It's the one that Putin visited in late 23, I think, late at night. And if you click on the, you see on the left, if you click there, you will see the pictures. There is a picture for every single icon, at least one. And so if you click there on the picture on the left, you will see, because on Google Maps, you don't see that. But now there is a building there. But on the other hand, if you click on the red icons on the right-hand side, like that one, for example, and you click there on the left-hand side of your screen, there, you see there is no buildings there anymore. So as Petro said during the interview, the Russians have demolished almost 500 blocks. So we are not talking about houses, but we are talking about huge buildings, like from 4 floors up to 12. There is nothing left. So on each icon, if you click on the left-hand side, you got the picture. So you can, as you can see. Now, and perhaps I don't know if anyone noticed during the interview, I said that now they're really, I have to admit, they're really rebuilding a lot. But none of the buildings that they are building now are for Ukrainians who lost their houses. It's just for Russians. And you know, the interest rate in Russia is 21%, the basic interest rate. While in Mariupol, they will get the mortgage for 2%, which is nothing. Not even in Europe it's anything. It's incredible. It's because they want to displace the people. They want to colonize Mariupol and have Russians there. So in the future, when Ukraine will advance, they will say, no, city is full of Russians. So what are you doing? Right? You know the rhetoric. And so I've got different layers on the map. Those snow stars in blue, it's because last autumn, between October and that's the only layer without pictures. It's because last autumn, between October and November, in Mariupol they had a centralized heating system, but on Russian channels, which are not in the description tonight, they were complaining that they had not heat in their homes. So temperature outside was like 0 degrees Celsius, and their houses were same temperature because the heating system was not working. So I tried to collect the data from the Telegram channels and collect the addresses. So I believe I put around 50 blocks in the map. There were a few more, but yeah, each one of those snow stars in the map is a huge block of people who were freezing during autumn and winter.
Your map is really an important resource and documentation of what is going on.
Thank you, Erlend. I just want to highlight one thing. If you go to the right and you see all those red icons, if you zoom in there, look at that. So that area is called Stadium. It's quite close to Azovstal, which is on the left-hand side. And all those red icons there are demolished buildings. There is nothing left. Russians have not started to build anything yet in that area. And yeah, that's the one that you click on, the blue icon, is a shop. And that's the only building left. But it's terrible. So you see, we got 47 apartments, nothing is left. And people, even pro-Russians who were living there, are pissed off. Now you went to the 2023 year, I think. That one was a high building. Now it's also demolished. You see the red icon next street. In that building, you had the Kadyrov people, the snipers from Kadyrov, who were trying to shoot against Azovstal, but yeah, nothing is left of any of that. So it's dramatic. I mean, I really feel bad many of the time that I update my map.
Understandable.
And to be honest, I one day was commenting live with Petro because we speak almost every day, or we chat almost every day. And one day I said, it's so bad for me that I really cannot understand how bad can it be for a person like you who was born, grew up and lived in the city, and now everything is gone. Now everything is changing. It's terrible. And again, the final point, though, that I want to say is that we also said during the interview that other cities that Russians destroyed and occupied, there is nothing left. But for Mariupol, it's different because that's like a showcase for their propaganda. So they want to say that they're rebuilding, and they're doing it. As I said, it's not for local people anymore, but they're creating a different city. The buildings are different. They're bigger. They're really Russian, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
It's another city.
Russifying the city and
Yeah,
both with
they're countering what it was before. It's not going to be the same. And even if I'm not from the city myself, I've never been there. But I can imagine one day when the city will be free again, how it can be for one person who gets back to the city. Everything is changed. So they're erasing their lives once more.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
They're trying to change everything and change out people and brainwash the children. It's really an ongoing genocide actually happening.
It is.
Because when you are trying to erase culture, national identity of the people that are there, then that is classified as a genocide.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. And
Okay.
one final thing is that a couple of weeks ago, there was a good article from BBC about Mariupol, about how Russians are stealing properties, which we discussed during the interview tonight. And I was reading that article once more tonight before we went live, and something doesn't make sense to me because it appears that BBC is not really counting the people who died in Mariupol. It appears that they're just talking about people who left the city during the siege, but nobody knows how many people died. And the estimate of Petro and his team is about 55,000, which is a bit conservative because I have seen bigger estimates, but I want to stand with these numbers because it makes sense in some way. But remember that 55,000 people who died in Mariupol in 86 days is more than 10% of the population of the city.
Yeah, I guess it's going to be hard to get a true number. Not sure what methods they are using. If it's conservative, I would say it is still very, very high. We've seen estimates of up to 100 and 120,000 as well. But
so we have seen that around 22,000 is confirmed, but it means that it's before when Russian took occupation of the old city, and then after more or less the early March or mid-March 22, we have no clue. And then they made a lot of people disappear.
Yep.
Even when they demolished the buildings, and there is I'm unable to show that picture right now, but they've got a huge dump of debris in the heart of the city. Most of the people in Mariupol, they say, okay, it's not just the houses, but it's also the corpses. So we will never know.
Yeah, and there's a big disconnect, in my opinion, in the media when people are talking about casualties in Ukraine, where they don't count the death deaths in Mariupol, probably because there is no verified, internationally recognized casualty number of civilians there, which is
No, I agree with you.
very problematic.
Even last week, I believe there was some kind of official statement about, or 2 weeks ago, I'm not sure, about a official statement about civilian casualties during the conflict, and it was so low that it was, of course, just Mariupol itself. It was like at least 3 times bigger than that, and I was reading with that one, and I was commenting with Petro. What is that? Oh, sorry. I'm really feeling all this very close.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for bringing this interview and the information that you're collecting about Mariupol.
Thank you, Erlend.
It's very, very important